Steve. Good job.
Listen, I got two girls who live in my house. They listen to this song
You've
all
seen her
day
in
long.
concert.
I have. She was great.
Right. And if you're in the disco, no reason to panic. You're in. That's basically you're in the zone.
Not necessarily.
Right. Oh.
Hey, thank you very much for joining us. It's a Thursday, and it's a very busy day. A lot of news breaking.
It is. Yeah, the president's going to have a press conference in the Rose Garden today.
He is, in fact, and that's our lead story. President Trump is going to unveil his latest plan today aimed at tackling the crisis at our southern border regarding immigration.
He's going to talk about immigration reform. He's outlining the proposal during an afternoon speech in the Rose Garden. He's already calling on Democrats to help fix the broken system.
But will they listen? Griff Jenkins is live in Washington. Griff?
Good morning, Brian, Ainsley, and Steve. We'll find out if they listen. If they do, they'll hear a plan with two pillars. One, border security. The other will be overhauling the nation's legal immigration system, shifting it from a family-based one to a merit-based path, prioritizing skills, education, and employment. And it will increase the skills-based immigration system, which only accounts for about 12% now, up to 57%. It will reduce the existing family-based system at 66% down to 33%. And it would favor recruiting people under a Build America visa who have extraordinary talent, professional and specialized skills, and exceptional students. President Trump says he's optimistic it will have congressional support.
We're fighting the Democrats. The Democrats want open border. That means crime. And it'll go before Congress. It's going to have tremendous Republican support. I hope we can get enough Democrat support to get it passed.
Now, the plan does not address what to do about DACA, and it doesn't address the undocumented population already here. It's making Democrats skeptical. Senator Dick Durbin had this to say.
There have been so many aborted efforts when it comes to immigration reform under this president. I'm skeptical as to whether he truly wants to deal with immigration.
Well, someone who does want to deal with it, Senator Lindsey Graham unveiling his legislation yesterday, forcing migrants to apply for asylum in their home countries or Mexico and adding more immigration judges. Officials who briefed us yesterday said Graham's plan is mostly in sync with what the president wants to do on border security, and they wanted to highlight something else, and that is the fact that the U.S. will still issue the same number of green cards as it does now currently, but that visa lottery system, well, that'll be eliminated, guys.
That's right. Griff, thank you very much. That last point that Griff made, the same number of green cards, border hawks are not going to like it. They're going to continue at the 1 million per year level. Currently, about 140,000 of those are based on employment, the rest on family ties, the visa lottery, things like that. Under the new plan that the president is going to reveal today, it would distribute half to immigrants under a point system where you rank things like your education level, your age, and your ability to speak English.
Basically, it is a merit-based system. If you're really good at a skill, if you're a student, they're going to take that. They want only the best students, only the best and the brightest to come into the country.
And that's fine for 2020, but in 2019, we need an emergency fix. And getting people to agree on the lottery system, getting them to agree on anything like that is not going to happen anytime quick. It's going to decide who has Congress. Well, you got to focus on what happened at 10:30 yesterday morning, and that's the thing we unveiled with the preview when Lindsey Graham says anybody in those triangle countries have to go to a refugee processing center. When they say instead of holding for 20 days, we got to make it 100 days, and only a small amount will get asylum. When you have to get 500 judges to the border, that's going to stop these caravans, not the president's plan, which is 2 years away and has almost no Democratic support.
And now they're asking for TSA agents at airports, not the ones that actually do the screening, but people behind the scenes, to go down there voluntarily and help, because the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Acting Commissioner John Sanders said that border agents spend half of their time taking care of kids and migrants. It is definitely a problem.
And
Look,
at the bottom of the hour,
regarding Lindsey Graham's bill, there's no clear path of it getting through Congress. And regarding the Build America plan that the president's going to unveil today, there's zero chance that it's going to get through. Congress has not had a major immigration overhaul in 30 years.
Well, Lindsey Graham's not talking about an emergency overhaul. Lindsey Graham's talking about addressing a catastrophe at the border.
Right. It's still not going to go anywhere.
Why?
It just isn't because of politics.
Let's see a Democrat point out to one of these things that isn't effective or shows a political agenda.
For the president.
One Democrat who's on board with it.
But a compromise gets something done.
I agree. I think most Americans do.
Ainsley, which means that both would get credit. If you compromise, you both get credit. It's not a win for the president. Jay Johnson, who is the former Homeland Security Secretary for President Obama, says, I cannot believe how oblivious Congress is. Listen.
We had 100,000 apprehensions or encounters in the month of March and another 100,000 in the month of April. It's the highest it's been in 12 years. And to think of it this way, that is the equivalent of the population of the city of Orlando, Florida, showing up on our southern border in the course of 2 months. That creates a crisis, first of all, emanating from Central America, traveling through Mexico along the Mexican side of the southern border and on the U.S. side.
That's terrible. Everybody agrees it's a crisis, but it's a political season, and Democrats are not going to help the president, and the president is not going to help the Democrats get a win. Period.
Well, the Democrats get a win. Well, that's a Democratic secretary saying in 2014 the Republicans helped me out, and I think in 2019, in the past, you saw Congress rally together when the economy was falling apart. You saw it after 9/11. This, in many ways, a little bit less, but it is a catastrophe at the border. And sometimes leadership will show itself,
right.
And Nancy Pelosi will step up and go, "Okay, it is terrible."
Democrats are going to have to do something because we've still got a year and a half before the election, and this continuously cannot be a problem. In other news. Yeah. Mayor Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City,
look at that,
is expected to announce his run for 2020 today. And look at the front cover of the New York Post.
On page 7 of the New York Post, there's an editorial regarding the mayor of New York. It reads, "He is both incompetent and crooked, oblivious and arrogant. He won his current job, in a fluke election back in 2013, yet ever since has seemed certain that he's destined to be a major national figure despite falling on his face time after time."
Money has just gone down the drain. The school systems have fallen apart. You cannot drive down a major crossroad without thinking to yourself, I'm on the side of the moon. You go down 37th Street in Manhattan. You literally sit there in a luxury car. You sit there and you get a head spins. That's how bad these roads are. Only 18% of New Yorkers think he should run for president. And that is higher than I even thought. 76% say no.
It's just crazy. What do you think about that? He's going to declare he's running for president I think in about an hour.
Wow.
He's going to put out a tape in 2 hours. He's going to appear on another morning show, and then he's going to fly off to Iowa and South Carolina.
And then release that video. Yeah, Iowa tomorrow and South Carolina on Saturday.
Right. That number 20, the lucky number 22.
23. 23.
My bad.
23 and me.
Poor counting.
All right. Meanwhile, actor Kelsey Grammer sat down with Christiane Amanpour for her PBS show. They were talking about the fact that he's in Man of La Mancha. And she was fishing around for him to say something negative about the president. Instead, he winds up blasting the swamp. The conversation we're going to pick up here is where she's suggesting, look, you're a conservative in Hollywood who enjoys and likes Trump. Where does that leave you? And then he said this.
I'm unaware of taking a hit for it now. Certainly there's, passions run high. And certainly he has, been a touchstone for an extraordinarily passionate response. I don't know if it's as serious or horrible as everybody wants it to be.
I was wondering whether you thought that the sort of, many people believe the sort of fabric is being disrupted, and
well, I think the fabric being disrupted is a good thing.
You do?
Oh yeah. I do not think Washington was doing us any favors. For the last 50, 60 years, I think they've all been sort of just the same party, the same bunch of clowns, the same bunch of really politics. Unpleasant people. And I don't think they've been helping anybody but themselves.
And the American people?
And the American people will be just fine too. We've been through a lot worse.
Here you go, talking about Brexit.
How great is that he doubles down and doesn't back away from his support while still trying to launch, he wants everyone to watch his project.
And the other actress, I wonder what she's thinking. She's like, oh gosh, I hope she doesn't ask me this question.
Don't ask me about politics.
Right. Good for him, though, for being bold enough and brave enough to do that, because a lot of Hollywood actors, they say they don't want to talk about their politics because they're scared it's going to hurt them if they're conservative.
But Kelsey made it very clear. He said he hadn't taken a hit for it. What do you think about this? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Busy morning.
Is the mustache necessary for Man of La Mancha? I've never seen Man of La Mancha. Is that Fiddler on the Roof?
Is it what?
Is Man of La Mancha Fiddler on the Roof? Is that the same?
No.
Different show.
Really?
No. Yeah.
I think Robert Goulet did it back in the day, and he had a mustache.
That's why they have different names.
So is Kelsey Grammer imitating Robert Goulet, or is Robert Goulet being Man of La Mancha?
These are all good questions when Kelsey Grammer sits there on the couch.
Right.
He knows a lot about the music at the beginning of the show.
What's the song, If I Was a Rich Man?
That's Fiddler on the Roof, I think.
And is that the same?
No.
It's not
even close.
That's why they have different titles,
the
these
song
plays.
From The song from Man of La Mancha that's famous is The Impossible Dream. To dream the impossible dream.
I thought that was Andy Williams saying that.
Okay. Anyway, I think we've covered a lot of musical theater and stuff in the last 90 seconds. Time to move on to the news, and Jillian joins us for that.
Very confused right now. Good morning. Thank you for that, Brian. Sure. Let's start off with this story out of Kentucky because a toddler there who vanished on Mother's Day is found alive on a cliff with a 50-foot drop.
Everybody's so happy, you know, just chills went all through your body, just excited. We spent 3 really cold nights up there. Our little kid's a tank. You know, I said, he's a tank, he's tough. It's certainly a miracle.
Wow. 22-month-old Kenneth Howard was found just 2,000 feet from his home. His parents think he somehow got out the back door on Sunday night. Search crews heard crying following the sound, and that's when they spotted him. The sheriff's office says he is in remarkably good condition. A Wisconsin firefighter shot and killed in the line of duty. The 14-year veteran of the Appleton Fire Department was one of 4 people shot while responding to a medical emergency at a public transit center. A police officer was also hit. Witnesses said police took someone into custody. Police have not confirmed any arrests. 2 teen suspects in the deadly Colorado school shooting charged as adults with murder. The parents of Kendrick Castillo, who helped disarm one of the shooters, the parents were in court hours before his funeral.
We have the ability to be Kendrick in our life. And I just want to tell you, I've always known he was a gift and a hero. He was filled up with the good stuff. You know, and Maria and I, we can take credit for it, but you all have something to do with that too. You've heard everybody up here.
Outside the church, look at this line. More than 600 people gathered in a Jeep fleet to honor Castillo. He loved all things Jeep and saved up his money to buy one. The widow of a murdered California cop breaking down while thanking President Trump. Anamika Singh carrying her 10-month-old son as she took the microphone at a National Police Week event.
You're the only one that actually reached out and said, gave your condolence to the family. And it actually means a lot to all of our law enforcement families that are here. So I want to thank you that. And we all, every family sitting out here wants justice for what happened to their loved ones. And that's what I want for my husband.
Anamika hadn't planned on speaking but changed her mind at the last minute. Her husband, Ronil, was shot and killed the day after Christmas. The man charged was an illegal immigrant. Gives you chills listening to her speak.
It really does because his brother, Reggie, did speak, was going to speak, and then she said, I'm not going to. But then listen to him, and it's like, you know what? This is my chance. Yep. I got to do it now or never. And she did. All right,
Thanks,
Jill.
Thank you. Moments ago, the Missouri Senate passing a bill to ban abortions at 8 weeks as the media.
This Alabama effort is an all-out attack on women's reproductive freedom and our basic civil rights.
This is an assault on human rights. This is an assault on the basic fundamental ideal that you can control your own body.
Women's health care is under attack, and we will not stand for it.
Those are some 2020 Democrats pouncing on Alabama's abortion bill, a near total ban that the governor there, Kay Ivey, signed into law. This, as the Missouri Senate early this morning, just passed a bill banning abortions at 8 weeks. Are these signs that the pro-life movement is continuing to grow in our country? Catherine Glenn Foster is the president and CEO of Americans United for Life, and she joins me now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what do you make of all of this?
I'm just loving seeing the passion in the pro-life movement right now. We are at a time when Americans increasingly are pro-life, increasingly recognize fundamental human rights and the value of all life, and they're starting to pass laws that reflect that.
So why are the Democrats, why are the media, why are they hitting so hard against these states when this is what the voters want?
For 40 years, the mainstream media, certain politicians have tried to portray the pro-life movement as extremist, as anti-woman, and nothing could be farther from the truth. It's time for them to stop smearing the tens of millions of Americans who stand with us, who are pro-life, proudly pro-life, and believe in the fundamental human rights of every single human being.
If you look at some of the polls banning abortion after 6 weeks, 45% in this one particular poll, you can can see that at the bottom, the Hill-Harris poll. It says 45% said it was too restrictive, 34% say just right, 21% say it is too lenient. What do you think about that? That's looking at our country. It's not state by state.
Sure. You know, when we look both nationwide and state by state, we are seeing increasingly that Americans are pro-life. In fact, there was another Fox News poll from December 2017 that showed that 54% of Alabamians are pro-life, wanted abortion to be illegal, and only 39% opposed that. When you look at the percentage of Americans who believe that there should be major rollbacks on abortion, we're talking about 75% of Americans, and 2/3 of even self-described pro-choice Americans oppose, for example, late-term abortion. There are so many areas where Americans agree, and increasingly Americans are describing themselves as being pro-life, especially in the wake of these radical New York-style bills.
Activists hope that it will be taken up by the Supreme Court. We'll continue to follow it. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, first he took us to the dentist, and now Beto O'Rourke is live streaming his trip to the barber and cleaning out his ears as well. This is what he meant by a campaign reboot. Tomi Lahren.
Got some quick Thursday morning headlines for you. First up, cancer could become a manageable condition in the next 10 years. Researchers at the United Kingdom's Institute of Cancer Research working to develop anti-evolution drugs. They hope to keep cancer cells from becoming resistant to therapy to keep patients alive longer. And think your kid might have an ear infection? There may soon be an app for that. Ear Health uses the phone speaker to play a series of chirps in the kid's ear, helping the app determine if there is fluid present. University of Washington researchers say the app has been accurate 85% of the time. It is still in the experimental phase.
What happens if there's liquid in there? Does that mean it's
then you go to
infected?
the doctor.
Yeah.
Then there's an ear infection.
All right. Okay.
Speaking of ears.
I think we got to work on that. 24 minutes after the hour, Democrat hopeful Beto O'Rourke launching a reboot to his campaign with a trip to the barber.
Cutting out some of this ear hair that you get when you get older. It grows out of your ears, and if you don't get it cut, it can be nasty.
Well,
That's
there
great.
you go.
Goes great with your Cheerios this morning. Here to react is Fox Nation host Tomi Lahren. Hey, Tomi.
Hi, guys.
What'd you think of that video?
Well, it's actually really sad. I feel very badly, actually, for Beto, real name Robert O'Rourke, because he's trying so hard to make himself happen, and it's just not happening. But look, he's been completely upstaged by the rest of the Democrats in the field, and that's really not saying much. I think it's also very interesting the Democrats have positioned themselves this way because they're all about diversity, they're all about identity politics, and their front runners are Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, the least diverse candidates they could possibly pick as their front runners, and they're doing better than the rest. So Beto can get as many haircuts, as many dentist appointments. He could get a colonoscopy on air. He's still going to be uninteresting and have no shots.
I don't think we
Please
showed
don't
that
give him
last
any
part.
ideas.
You know, speaking of Joe Biden, he was the conversation for Kamala Harris, who was up in New Hampshire yesterday, and she was asked about perhaps being his running mate. Not exactly.
I think that, sure, if people want to speculate about running mates, I encourage that because I think that Joe Biden would be a great running mate. As vice president, he's proven that he knows how to do the job.
So he would be a great running mate for her as her vice president.
Well, really, the only shot that Kamala had at seeing any opportunity to go to the White House is if Joe Biden chose her as a running mate, and that comment just sealed her fate with that. He's definitely going to be looking over her now. But look, again, the Democrats have put themselves in a horrible position because they've campaigned on identity politics, but they're also the same party that doesn't believe in gender, but they must have a woman. And then they've got Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. They've created a mess for themselves that they cannot get out of, and Donald Trump must be sitting back and laughing at this whole thing because I know I am.
Well, the thing is, since Joe Biden jumped in, I guess Democrats are letting everybody know they are not interested in the other 21, 22 people because he's got such a substantial lead. The word is he's going to go for the kill shot right before we even get to a debate.
Oh, he absolutely will. But the thing about Joe Biden is this. He tries to position himself as middle of the road. He tries to position himself as a man for the working people. The only problem with that is that we have a president that's actually proving he is for Americans and the working people. So if Joe Biden wants to campaign on an economy that Donald Trump has bolstered and supported, I don't know that that's really going to resonate with middle America and those that Joe Biden would normally count on. So Donald Trump has really made himself the candidate to beat, and really, I think he's going to have no problem going right into 2020 and continuing to make America great.
Tommy, I heard some exciting news that your show called No Interruption on Fox Nation is going to be painted on one of the NASCARs.
Yes, ma'am. So I actually did an episode with NASCAR Truck Series driver Angela Rook, and she was kind enough to put our show on the side of her NASCAR truck, and that's going to be seen in Charlotte this weekend, and then hopefully for weekends after that. So if you guys are NASCAR fans or you're going to be in the race in Charlotte, look out for me on the side of that beautiful truck, and Fox Nation gets some great promotion there. We couldn't be happier.
That is really cool. Is that a sticker, or did they paint it on? It's going to be there for a while.
It's a wrap, so they like to change the wraps, but they actually did one last week, and it was a different version of the No Interruption banner, and now this week we have a brand new one, so I couldn't be more excited, and hey, Fox Nation is getting the love it deserves at NASCAR. We already know that those are our fans, and now we just have a really awesome female driver who decided to give us a little bit of a shout out, and I couldn't be more thankful.
That's great. So download the app. If you missed the summit, you don't have to miss the app. You can bring it right to the phone. All right. Thanks, Tommy.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, meanwhile, 28 minutes after the hour, all week long we were giving you a view of the border. Today, we'll look at the crisis of the border through those who have to round up those looking for asylum on the Border Patrol with the Border Patrol chief. Watch.
Look, here comes some more right now, right? So I told you they do.
This country, it's just in the wrong hands.
We are back with this Fox News alert because moments ago, New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio announces a 2020 presidential run.
On video.
Be stopped. I've beaten him before, and I will do it again. I'm Bill de Blasio, and I'm running for president because it's time we put working people first.
Exactly. He's now the 23rd Democrat to announce his candidacy.
Mayor de Blasio is expected to visit early voting states, Iowa and South Carolina this weekend.
I wonder if anyone will show up because I don't know if people in South Carolina really know who he is.
Probably not. Look, the people in New York City who know him best, according to a poll we cited 30 minutes ago, 75% of the people in New York think he should not run for president. But he's doing it. Why do they, when they know they have no chance? And he knows he has no chance. Why is he running?
He's got nothing else to do. He's term limited out. He won a second election because it's an embarrassment in New York. No one really ran against him. But he immediately becomes the tallest candidate. So does Joe Biden have a plan to counter the de Blasio mania that's going to be blowing his direction?
How tall is he?
He is 6'11".
No. Really?
I made that up. I think he's like 6'6".
I think he's like somewhere in that range.
Right.
Meanwhile, speaking of people of note, the Attorney General of the United States is going to sit down with Bill Hemmer. You're going to see that interview, Bill and Mr. Barr, the AG, tomorrow at 9 o'clock on America's Newsroom.
And I believe it's in El Salvador where they're doing it. That's probably the #1 interview. Bill Hemmer, good job. Meanwhile, 26 minutes before the top of the hour, I told you before we had a chance to go down to the border on Friday and Saturday, and one of the first things we did on Friday is hop in the car, in the SUV, with the deputy chief of the Rio Grande Valley sector, John Morris. And believe me, it is an emergency catastrophe. And if you don't believe me, believe him. Watch. What are we seeing right now?
What you see is what should be a parking area for the McAllen Border Patrol Station. But instead, you see multiple military tents.
You're looking at a facility that should be handling 300, maybe 350 people max. It is now handling multiple thousands of people. Take a look. These are people being held, just picked up off the border. In fact, this whole tent complex came up in the last 36 hours because there's just no place to put them.
Currently, we're holding over 8,000 people. We've already caught over 1,000 today as of noon. We may set another record for apprehensions today.
And the reason why this is full is because where you're taking me now.
We're in the McAllen Station area of responsibility, the busiest station in the United States Border Patrol. We're going to an area called Rincon Village. It is ground zero on the entire United States Southwest border.
Have you had the caravan situation?
We have a caravan come through here every 5 days, and we have been for 2 years. So as you can see right up here, we've already got some family in it. This is currently going on 24 hours a day. They're coming across the river, and they're just walking up here.
Where do you think they're from?
Let's ask some. ¿Cuántos años tiene él? Tres. So she's from Honduras, and this is her son that's 3 years old.
How long did it take him to get here?
¿Cuánto tiempo viajaste de su país? She says 15 days.
15 days. We asked how they found out they should come.
En la televisión. So she said she heard on television, right? Bring your child and you'll get papers and get to walk.
Now that she's here, what does she think is next?
No sé, por medio de una entrevista.
She just says that she knows she's going to get a permiso and somehow she'll get on a plane and get to New York.
Is she right?
Yes, she is right. She's going to end up there somehow.
Why is she coming now?
She just says it's bad in her country and that she knows right now is the opportunity to come.
It's amazing. I mean, everyone's got a different story, and even though they're great stories, we're just not equipped to handle it. They're just not the way you do it.
That's true, Brian. That's what's happening. The immigration system was not designed to operate like this. There is an orderly way to apply for asylum, to apply for immigration benefits. This is not the way to do it.
And until Washington can work out, it's your responsibility. And that's got to be frustrating.
It is.
These people are nice people in many cases. They have individual stories, but that is not the story.
And that is the truth, Brian. Our people, the agents that work here, I'm a father, most of them have families. This tugs at anybody's heartstring. This is really a humanitarian piece. But from an enforcement perspective, while we're standing here right now, there are people that want to get away from us just a couple miles upriver.
You're a parent?
I am a parent.
And you know that cough, right?
Absolutely.
He needs some medicine.
And they're going to get it. Trust me, we have medical contracts. Anybody that's even remotely sick, we're taking them to the hospital because this is America. We're going to do what we need to take care of people. Life, safety, and health is first.
And how old is the baby?
¿Y cuántos años tiene su bebé? 4 months.
4 months.
Yes.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And tired.
Yes.
Look, here comes some more right now, right? So I told you, they just come up the road.
They're coming in the country.
Yeah, they just got dropped off by a smuggler. Where are these guys from?
Cuba.
Oh, so another issue, Cubans. Even though 70% of the people we're currently apprehending are from those three countries, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. We've already caught people from over 55 different countries.
We're trying to get in the car.
We're trying to leave, and so we just saw the 3 Cubans. Now here comes the next group.
My image is it's brush and people sneaking through on hands and knees. Instead, this is a road.
It is.
This is a system.
This is a system.
So, Chief, you brought us to the Rio Grande River.
So while we were up with the family unit, over the radio, there was an agent down here and saw some smugglers trying to bring something across the river. We weren't sure if it was aliens or narcotics. He was asking if anybody was available to come help him work this traffic. They weren't, because the agents were up there trying to secure that family unit.
And that's it. That's Mexico. And you believe there's people there with binoculars, men in there with binoculars, scouting out their move. And is their move when it gets dark?
24 hours a day. They don't have to wait for dark.
Yeah, excellent reporting,
Really
Brian.
good, Ryan.
As the drug czar told us yesterday, those people are being used in many cases as pawns because the cartels help the people go across so that while they're going across and the agents are processing them in that spot, a couple miles down the road, that's where they bring the drugs in. Billions of dollars worth.
And the other factor, guess what those people did? They paid the cartels to bring them there.
Yeah.
So they get additional money
Double
for
dipping.
additional drugs to make themselves more powerful than ever.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you didn't see it, obviously. Laura Ingraham did a great job there. Like, you see people start to cross and they fall out of their raft begins to sink, and then you got to go in there with the boats and save them before they drown.
I'm glad to know that the Americans, that our border agents, are taking care of these kids when they're sick. What amazed me is that lady said, I saw on TV.
There's
you can go
ads.
on up.
There's ads. I said on the news, and they say, no, commercial. So they're running commercial. Come to America. Come to America. This is how you do it. This is where you go. So Guatemala and Honduras are looking to empty out the people that are on their social system to put them in ours. We're just not equipped to take in 2,300 in just that sector a day. It's just not the way a country functions.
I wonder if that woman that we met in that story is in New York yet.
No, she's going to be held for 20 days, so she's probably on day 5. And they literally just stand. They stay with their kids, we give them food, we do that, and they just wait out their 20 days. Next thing you know, they say, come with us. After they process, get the fingerprints, they get on a bus and maybe on a plane. And they're in our country.
A 4-month-old baby.
Yep. It's incredible.
All right. Great reporting from down in McAllen.
Major Matthew Goldstein was charged in the 2010 killing of a suspected Taliban bomb maker in Afghanistan. The military says the Taliban fighter was not on the cleared list of targets to kill. President Trump has previously said he would review the case. A trial date is not set. Take a look at this shocking video. A woman grabs a child and attempts to kidnap him at McDonald's. Los Angeles police say it happened so fast, his parents didn't even notice. A witness in the parking lot stopped the woman before she could put the boy in her car. She ran away. The LAPD believes this same woman tried to kidnap another child just 1 day later. An officer steps in for a brother in blue on his daughter's wedding day. California Highway Patrol officer Jake Steele walking Amanda Robbie down the aisle. Her dad was shot on the job and now suffers from spinal cord and brain injuries. Medical issues stopped him from boarding a plane from Idaho.
It was absolutely like being taken into the family. So it made me feel great for what I did.
I don't think words can ever describe having somebody just completely wrap you in their love.
Steele also joined Amanda for her first dance. Send it back to you.
And walked her down the aisle.
Yep,
That's great.
Really sweet of him.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. All right, straight ahead. Legal experts, some, have advice for Congressman Jerry Nadler of New York to get President Trump, just impeach him.
Right.
Who cares what people think?
Legal experts on Capitol Hill giving House Democrats some surprise advice about how they can force information that they want out of the president.
In your opinion, does the House Judiciary Committee have a legal basis for seeking disclosure on a confidential basis of the grand jury materials?
I believe it does. I believe that would be strengthened if impeachment proceedings were to begin.
Oh, so start impeachment proceedings. So should Democrats just go ahead and impeach the president now to get the info?
Nancy Pelosi says no, but let's ask Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's full-time here. We give him full health benefits as well as dental. He's host of Liberty.
What else are you going to reveal, Brian?
Well, it's true. You're fully insured. Judge,
21 years now.
Who's right, Nancy Pelosi or that legal counsel?
Well, it's kind of an odd thing, but Paul Rosenzweig, the fellow who you just quoted, who's a Republican and a former DOJ official and a constitutional law scholar, made the argument that if the House were to initiate impeachment proceedings, the president's executive privilege claims shrink. They shrink down to diplomatic, military, and national security secrets.
Is that unique to impeachment proceedings?
Well, it's unique to a criminal proceeding. Here's why I say this. The only time the Supreme Court looked at this is a very famous case called United States versus Nixon, President Nixon, where Leon Jaworski was investigating the president's underlings and the president for a violation of the law. They subpoenaed the tapes, the infamous tapes. Nixon didn't comply. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, in a criminal case, the president's executive privilege shrinks to military, diplomatic, sensitive national security. Paul Rosenzweig and Jonathan Turley after him yesterday argued that the same would be the case in impeachment. So should they impeach him just to shrink executive privilege and expand their ability to get information out of him? Mrs. Pelosi says no. Adam Schiff says no. It is wrong to impeach the president without a broad national bipartisan consensus behind it. No such consensus exists now.
They're worried it could hurt them also in the polls in 2020.
Well, Ainsley, that's exactly what happened when Clinton was impeached. Ask our dear friend Senator Lindsey Graham, who was one of the impeachment prosecutors and probably wouldn't have done it again with what he now knows.
Maybe they'll try
It exploded politically on the Republicans, and Clinton, even though he was impeached, not removed from office, but impeached, left office with a higher approval rating than before the impeachment began.
Let's talk about what happened in Alabama. The governor there, no woman can get an abortion there unless her health is at risk now.
Unless she's about to die.
Right, her health is at risk.
It's the most extreme pro-life legislation in the country.
It's going to the Supreme Court.
Correct, and it's written for that purpose. There is a view that there's a pro-life majority in the Supreme Court, and if there's any time, and obviously a pro-life president, and if there's any time to dismantle Roe, and I'll tell you what I think would happen, the time is now. The dismantling of Roe would leave it up to each individual state. You want an abortion, you come to New Jersey or New York where infanticide is legal. You don't want to live in an environment with abortion, you go to Alabama. That's what the choice would be.
It's all about states' rights.
Yes.
The states get to pick.
Even Justice Scalia, who believed abortion was murder, felt that the proper constitutional position was to leave it up to the states. Why? Because the Constitution is silent on it.
And that's what they're doing right now until it goes up to the Supreme Court.
Correct. Correct. So question, when, not if, when it gets to the Supreme Court, will they reaffirm Roe or will they change Roe? $64 million question.
Stay tuned.
Brian, do you still have more of those interviews to come?
No, that's it. We'll air it again at 8:30.
You did a great public service, my dear friend.
Thanks. Those guys were real.
I know you're upset about the Jets, but you did a great public service.
Yeah, they fired the general manager after he drafts and signs every free agent.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead.
Summer is
situation where we haven't seen something like this before, because the specific location of these oil pipelines that were attacked are pretty far well within the country, and the Houthis haven't been able to reach that distance before. So what happened here is either they conducted these attacks from within Saudi territory, or they've really significantly increased their drone capability, the likes of which we've never seen before, and that's possible as well. But we know that based on what we're seeing here, where the Houthis have conducted drone attacks before targeting Saudi infrastructure, that the Iranians are behind this. And I think that's the danger here, is because the Iranians clearly don't care about upsetting the energy supply, the oil supply, and hurting some of this global economy.
Plus, you've been talking about it for a very long time. These drones are the warfare of the future, and it just goes to show you how deadly they can become.
Right. Look, the truth is that the weaponization of drone technology is no longer reserved for superpowers. Any criminal organization or terrorist group, sadly, has the ability, as long as they have access to explosives, to purchase a drone online and conduct an attack. We started seeing that with ISIS in Mosul, but this is a different level than what we've ever seen before here. And so I worry that this can lead to future attacks and potentially, disrupting, creating economic damage more so than physical.
That's one of the other worries as well. All right. Brett, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. What do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, searching for justice nearly 18 years after 9/11, and some of the victims still do not have answers. A man who lost his father that day and a survivor join us live to explain.
We want justice. The government knows who did it. They know who funded it. It's very
right now, so let's get started. At least one person is dead, 11 others are hurt following a mass shooting near a Mexican resort hotspot. Officials in Playa del Carmen say none of the victims are tourists. The attack is believed to be tied to a dispute between local criminals. And Americans can get more than fries when visiting McDonald's in Austria. The U.S. Embassy in Vienna announcing the Golden Arches will now serve as mini embassies for tourists. McDonald's staff can help visitors contact the real embassy for help with things like lost passports. Ainsley.
Okay, thanks, Brian. 9/11 victims and their families taking the FBI to court, demanding the names of those who provided support for the terror attacks from inside the U.S. Listen.
We know the documents exist, but are being stymied. We want justice.
The government knows who did it. They know who funded it. It's very painful. Continuous kick in the gut.
We are being re-victimized because our government has not been compliant in forthcoming with these documents.
Families are asking the DOJ to reveal redacted names from investigation memos that could show how high-ranking Saudi officials were involved. Federal attorneys say that this could be a national security risk. But our next guests, they just want the truth. Brett Eagleson's father, Bruce, was killed in the terror attack. He died a hero. We'll hear his story in just a moment from his son. And Tim Froelich was working in the South Tower and injured during the attack. Brett and Tim join us now. So, Brett, you were actually in, I think I mixed that up. Your dad died the hero. I'm sorry about that. Tell me about your experience, because you worked on the 80th floor.
I worked on the 80th floor of the South Tower. When the North Tower was attacked, we elected to start our way down with the hope of leaving the tower. So I had worked my way down to somewhere in the 60s, the low 60s.